So let me see if I can kind of put these points and these two perspectives together. Scott, what I'm hearing from you is there has to be a level of resources, expertise, capital, et cetera, in order to do this well. And then, Brent, what I heard from you is something similar, but you also talked about this other story, which is starting small and growing it over time. So if we were to look at the criteria that we outlined from Scott's perspective, we might say for early investments, oh, Brent should definitely not be doing this kind of stuff because he doesn't have the team, he doesn't have the capital, he doesn't have all these things there, but yet you did it. Is there a way to combine those two stories together? Is it that it's really about dabbling and growing slowly if you don't have the types of criteria that make it at least a home run to do this work with more of your time?
Yeah, I would say this is where actually smaller family offices, I think in some ways have less pressure and have more advantage, right? Because family offices now that we talk to, and we get a fair amount of family offices reach out to us and say, hey, we want to get into what you're doing, will you help us? And we always try to be magnanimous about it and try to be helpful. And one of the things I say is go spend $5 million buying a business and then go operate it for 2 years before you ever think about buying another business. For most families, though, spending $5 million, finding a deal, it's going to take time. We say to find one deal, if you're from a standing stop, it's going to be like 2 to 3 years to find a good deal. I mean, you can do any deal. You can't do good deals. To do a good deal, it's going to be 2 to 3 years, and then you're going to operate that thing for 2 or 3 years to really learn, get your feet underneath you, learn all the hard lessons. So now you're talking about half a decade and only $5 million of capital, maybe 10 if you wanted to really blow it out. For most family offices, you're not going to have the initiative to stick with it. They're going to think that's either too small or too risky. I mean, this is where you sort of get into these feedback loops. But that's actually what it requires to build the skill set up, or you have to go hire somebody who has a track record of doing this. And the issue is, you got to look at their track record of doing it and how they did it, because that's how they're going to do it with you. And if they're used to being in a big private equity firm and doing big deals, them coming into the lower middle market is going to be a disaster. It just operates differently, right? I mean, you're not going to show up in your private jet with a suit on and strike a check and you got a built-out leadership management team. That's just not how it works. Our area of the market, it's messy. It's you got to grind it out. It's difficult, and so you really got to look at depending on the size of the family office, the initiative you got to put forth really has to match the sort of the reality on the field.
Yep. Scott, I know you spend a good bit of time talking to some of these family offices as well that are thinking about direct investment or perhaps doing it. Would you give a similar response? It's something about this mix of either growing slowly over time or having the capabilities in order to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say most of the family offices too, maybe just to clarify that we talk to, and I do talk to quite a few of them, they tend to be kind of bigger, but they're also doing more direct investments. So our direct investments are not the same as what Brent's doing. Most of our direct investments are in conjunction with a partner like Brent, so we would be co-investments, and we do them in both public and private markets, and it would be slightly different in each different market. But we're trying to cherry pick, and we love smaller firms who tend to be capital constrained, and they're willing to put 20 or 30% of their fund in a deal, and hopefully we have a good enough relationship that we're a super early call and say hey, we're looking at this deal, we probably can't do it ourselves, would you guys come look at it with us? And then we can get involved in the diligence process early on. But to go back to your question, I would say, for those types of family offices, it's not the same commitment, at least our style of kind of co-investments or direct investing is not as kind of as much, Brent's is more like a marriage, ours is more like, mother-in-law or stepbrother or something.
We're all fresh up on Thanksgiving, you all have those relationships in mind.
But you are stuck with those investments for a long period of time, and so I do think making sure you have the resources and the capabilities to actually underwrite the deal, and the truth is once you're in a reasonable flow, you'll see more deals than you know what to do with. So you have to be super selective, and it takes a really good team and a different kind of mindset to build a portfolio of really good direct investments.
Okay.